Get out of this room.
My father said. He wasn't whispering. He wasn't asking. That same evening, my brother showed up with 2 suitcases and a pregnant wife I had met only once. Tiffany stood behind Marcus, looking around my bedroom, the room I had painted myself, the shelves I had put up with my own drill, every inch of space paid for with my own money, and she said, "It would be better if you left the whole house." My father nodded. My mother looked down at the floor. Nobody said another word. I left. I packed everything I owned into 3 cardboard boxes and walked out of a house that had my name, and only my name, on the ownership papers. But what my family didn't know, what they would find out just a few days later, made Tiffany call me at 11 o'clock at night, her voice shaking. "It's not true. Tell me it's not true." Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story truly speaks to you. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. My name is Sabrina Brennan. I'm 29 years old, and I'm a licensed civil engineer in Massachusetts. Now, let me take you back to the day I signed the papers on a house I thought would keep my family together. I remember the pen. It was a cheap blue ballpoint, the kind you grab from a cup on a front desk, and I used it to sign the most important and expensive paper of my life. March 14th, 4 years ago, in a title company office on State Street in Springfield. The notary stamped the ownership papers, slid them across the table, and said, "Congratulations, Miss Brennan. It's all yours. All mine." My name, Sabrina Brennan, was the only name on those papers. No one else signed with me, no one else owned it with me. Just me. A 25-year-old with a brand new engineer's license, a starting salary of $72,000, and a home loan for $234,000. My monthly payment was $2,340, due on the first of every month for the next 30 years. The house was bigger than I needed. 2 floors, a half-finished basement, 3 bedrooms, and a backyard with a maple tree that dropped leaves all over the driveway every October. I didn't need 3 bedrooms. I only needed 1. But I bought a house with 3 bedrooms because my father, Gerald Brennan, 58 years old, a retired plumber with a bad back and a disability check of $1,480 a month, had just sold the mobile home where he and my mother had lived for 11 years. They had nowhere to go. So I made room. The plan was simple. They would move in, help pay for utilities, and we would all live together as a family under one roof. That was the deal. No written agreement, no lease, no signed paper. Just trust. They moved in the following week. My mother brought her ceramic rooster collection. My father brought his recliner and his opinions. Neither of them ever paid a single utility bill. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that I spent 4 years believing that if I just kept paying, kept fixing things, kept proving myself, they would eventually see my worth. They never did. Let me tell you about how things worked in the Brennan family, because it will explain everything that comes next. Marcus Brennan, my older brother, 33 years old. Good-looking in the way that gets you a second date but never a second promotion. He sold used cars at a dealership called Riverside Motors and talked about it like he was closing big business deals on Wall Street. My father adored him. Gerald Brennan had one belief that shaped everything he did. Sons carry the family name, daughters carry the groceries. Marcus was the future. I was the support system. When Marcus graduated from community college, which took him 3 tries and a D- in 1 class, my father threw a backyard party. 16 people, burgers, beer, and a banner that said, "Proud of you, son," in big letters. When I graduated with honors from the civil engineering program at UMass Amherst, on the dean's list 7 out of 8 semesters, my father sent a text message. 4 words. "Good for you, kid." No punctuation. No party. When I passed my engineering exam, a license that fewer than 25% of engineering graduates earn, my mother said, "That's nice, honey. Your brother just got promoted to senior sales." Senior sales at a used car lot. While Marcus had $38,000 in credit card debt. But Gerald didn't know about the debt. Or maybe he did and didn't care. What I know for sure is that he had been quietly giving Marcus money from his disability check, $5,000 here, $3,000 there, and then turning around and asking me, "Can you help with the bills this month, sweetheart? The prescriptions are killing us." I always said yes. Because that's what a support system does. It holds everything up, and nobody notices, until it's gone. Then one Friday evening, Marcus called with news that changed everything. But before I get to that phone call, I need you to understand the numbers. Because numbers don't lie. And in my family, they were the only thing that didn't. Over 4 years, I made 48 mortgage payments at $2,340 each. That's $112,320, just for the loan itself. On top of that, I paid the electric bill, which averaged $380 a month in Massachusetts, where winters are very cold. Water and sewer ran about $90. Internet and cable. My father insisted on the sports package, added another $200. Groceries. I added about $150 a month because my parents ate every meal at home and never once pushed a cart through a grocery store. Add it all up. $147,360, carefully counted, came out of my paycheck and went into a house where I slept in one bedroom and asked nothing from anyone. I also painted the outside of the house twice, doing it myself over 2 full weekends each time, up on a 20-foot ladder. I replaced the roof section over the back porch when it started leaking. $4,200 out of my own pocket. I put in a heating unit in the basement because my father said the house was cold downstairs. $3,100. My neighbor, Louise Vacate, 67 years old, had lived next door for 11 years. Saw all of it. Every time I climbed a ladder. Every bag of mulch. Every Saturday morning, I was outside with a snow shovel at 6 a.m. while my parents slept. Louise stopped me once, leaning over the fence. "Honey, where's your family when you're up on that ladder?" I smiled and said, "They're inside. That's kind of the point, so they can be comfortable inside." Louise gave me a look. I didn't understand it then. I understand it now. It was pity. Then Marcus called. "Sabrina, I'm coming home, and I'm not coming alone." Marcus's voice had that special brightness it only got when he wanted something. I had heard it before. When he needed me to co-sign a loan, I said no. When he wanted to borrow my car for a weekend that turned into 2 weeks. When he asked me to talk to Dad about sending him more money. This time, he was bringing Tiffany, his wife of 8 months, who was 7 months pregnant. They arrived on a Friday evening. 2 large suitcases, 3 boxes of baby supplies, and Tiffany, who stepped out of Marcus's car and looked at the house the way you'd size up something at an auction. She was 30 years old, worked part-time as a receptionist at a dental office, and had a way of making every sentence sound like she was doing you a favor by talking to you. My father was ready. I figured that out within 30 seconds of their arrival, because the living room furniture had already been moved around and a space had been cleared. Gerald had known they were coming. He had prepared, and he hadn't told me. But Tiffany took one look at the living room and shook her head. "This won't work. We need a real bedroom. I'm 7 months along." Gerald turned to me. Not asked. Turned, the way you'd turn to a piece of furniture that needed to be moved. "Get out of the room." "That's my room, Dad. I've been in that room for 4 years. And Marcus needs it now. He has a family." "I am family. You know what I mean." Tiffany added her line, the one I already told you about. And then my mother appeared in the hallway holding 3 flattened cardboard boxes. Same brand. Same size. The ones I had used to move in 4 years ago. She had kept them. For years she had kept those boxes in the garage, as if she had always known this day was coming. I told myself it was temporary. 1 week, maybe 2, until things got sorted out. That's what Gerald said. Just temporary, Sabrina. Just until things settle. So I moved down to the basement, the one I had spent $3,100 heating. Bare concrete walls. A single light bulb on a pull chain. A mattress I dragged down from the guest closet and put directly on the floor because there was no bed frame. The air smelled like mold and old cardboard. And in the corner, a slow drip from a pipe kept a steady beat that kept me awake the first night. Upstairs, Tiffany made herself at home. The next afternoon, she posted a photo of my old bedroom, now set up as a nursery with a crib and pastel decorations, on her Instagram. "Family always makes room for the next generation," followed by a pink heart emoji. 212 likes. The comments were full of congratulations and things like, "What a beautiful space." Nobody asked whose space it had been 24 hours earlier. Marcus passed me on the stairs the next morning. "It's just temporary, Sabrina. Don't make this weird." I slept in that basement for 3 nights. On the third night, a pipe joint gave way slightly. Not a full burst, but a steady leak. I woke up at 3 a.m. with my back soaked through the mattress. I lay there in the dark, water slowly spreading through the fabric, staring at the ceiling, which was their floor, and I thought, I'm paying $2,340 a month to sleep in a puddle under my own house. The next morning, I went upstairs to make coffee. Tiffany was sitting at the kitchen table using the espresso machine I had bought. She looked up. "Oh, you're still here?" That was the first time in my life I understood that love and ownership are not the same thing. It happened on a Tuesday. I was sitting in my car in the parking lot at work, eating a granola bar, when my phone buzzed with a notification from my credit monitoring service. I had signed up for it 3 years earlier. Not because I was paranoid, but because my engineering mind likes tracking data. The alert read, "New lien detected on property at 147 Maplewood Drive, Springfield, Massachusetts." I read it twice. Then a third time. Then I put the granola bar down and opened the full report. A $95,000 mortgage lien had been filed through Greenfield Credit Union, a small community bank on Carew Street, the same one where my father had his checking account. The borrower's signature on the loan paperwork listed, Sabrina Brennan. Except I had never signed anything. I had never been to Greenfield Credit Union. I had never agreed to put a lien on my property. I pulled up the signature image in the PDF. It looked close enough to fool someone at a quick glance, but I know my own handwriting the way a musician knows their own instrument. The capital B in Brennan was wrong. I loop it tight at the top. This one swooped wide, the way you'd copy it off a photocopy. And my middle initial, E for Elizabeth, was written in print. I always write it in cursive. Someone had traced my signature from a used car lease I had signed 2 years earlier, the one my father had helpfully made a copy of, for his records. I called the credit union. A manager confirmed the loan had been processed 3 months earlier by someone described as a family member of the property owner. The witness listed on the application was Donna Brennan. My mother. $95,000. My name. My house. Without my knowledge. Without my permission. I sat in that parking lot with both hands on the steering wheel, shaking, not from fear, but from anger. If this lien officially showed up on my credit report within the next 30 days, my credit score of 761, built over nearly a decade of hard work, would crash. And with it everything I had worked for. The clock had started ticking. There's a Dunkin' on Boston Road that stays open 24 hours. I sat there until 1 o'clock in the morning with a medium black coffee and a paper napkin I had flattened on the table. I drew a line down the middle. Left side, what I lose if I fight. Right side, what I lose if I don't. The left side was short but heavy. My relationship with my parents. Whatever was left of it. The possibility of being cut off by the whole family. Aunt Patrice's Christmas cards. Uncle Ray's handshake at Thanksgiving. And Tiffany was 7 months pregnant, which meant any move I made would be seen as an attack on an expecting mother. I could already hear the story Gerald would tell. The right side was longer. $95,000 in fake debt attached to my name. A credit score in freefall. The possible loss of my ability to refinance, borrow, or function as an independent adult. And the certainty, the absolute mathematical certainty, that if I did nothing they would do it again. Because people who steal from you once and face no consequences don't stop. They just get bolder. I looked at both columns. Then I crumpled the napkin and threw it away. The decision had already been made the moment I saw that forged signature. I just needed the napkin to confirm it. The next morning, I called Rita Calloway. She was a real estate lawyer in Springfield with 17 years of experience in property disputes. A co-worker's mother knew her. I told Rita everything. She listened without interrupting for 6 full minutes. Then she said, "Sabrina, what your father did is forgery. What your mother did is helping him commit a crime. What Marcus did is fraud. I need you to not say a single word to anyone in your family until we have everything documented." For the first time in 4 years, I wasn't paying bills to keep a family together. I was paying a lawyer to keep myself whole. Rita worked fast. Within 48 hours, she had filed a formal request, as my right as the property owner, for every document connected to the lien. Greenfield Credit Union was required to hand them over, and they did, reluctantly, but they did. The packet arrived at Rita's office on a Thursday afternoon. I drove there straight from work, and we spread the pages across her conference table like evidence at a crime scene. Because that's exactly what it was. The forged ownership paperwork, my signature, or the version of it someone had traced from that car lease, was at the bottom of page 4. My mother's name as a witness was on page 5, in her unmistakable handwriting. Donna Brennan, written with the same green ink pen she had used for 20 years. Then the transaction records. Rita had. It was for Marcus's credit card debt. I have the bank records, Mom. $38,000 to his card. $22,000 for a car. You personally withdrew $15,000 in cash over 3 visits. Do you want me to read you the dates? You're going to tear this family apart. The family was torn apart the night you put 3 cardboard boxes outside my bedroom door. She hung up. I sat alone in my studio that night with a comparison sheet Rita had printed, my real signature on the left, the forgery on the right, and I asked myself whether I was being too harsh, whether there was a version of this where everyone came out okay, whether the right thing and the kind thing were the same thing. Then I looked at the forgery again. My mother's handwriting on the witness line. Green ink. The same pen she used to write grocery lists and birthday cards, and the note she had tucked into my lunchbox in 4th grade. Have a great day, sweetie. No. I wasn't being too harsh. I was finally being clear. Have you ever had someone you love use your own loyalty against you? I'd like to hear your story. Share it in the comments. You might help someone else realize they're not alone. Marcus showed up at my apartment without warning on a Thursday evening. No call, no text. Just 3 hard knocks on a door he had no business knowing the address of, though I suspect my mother gave it to him. I checked the video from the doorbell camera Rita had told me to install the week before. Marcus was standing on the walkway, jaw tight, hands opening and closing at his sides. I opened the door. What the heck are you doing, Sabrina? Dad says you're threatening to kick us out. I'm not threatening anything. I'm using my legal rights as the property owner. Property owner? He laughed, a short, ugly sound. You think a piece of paper makes you better than family? That piece of paper is an ownership document. And another piece of paper, the one you forged with Dad, is a federal crime. The laugh died. His expression changed, not to regret, but to calculation. I had watched Marcus sell cars for years. I knew exactly when his approach shifted. Look, his voice softened. We can work this out. Tiffany's due in 8 weeks. You can't do this to her. I'm not doing anything to Tiffany. I'm undoing what was done to me. If you go through with this, you'll never see your niece or nephew. The words landed, but they didn't hurt the way he intended. He was using a child, an unborn child, as a bargaining chip. The same way Gerald used family as a reason to steal. That's your choice, Marcus. Not mine. He left, slamming the door hard enough to shake the frame. The doorbell camera captured everything. His face, his voice, his threat, the timestamp. 7:42 p.m. Rita would have the footage by morning. Some people build walls with bricks. I was building mine with evidence. Gerald Brennan might not have been good with money, but he was very good on the phone. Within 48 hours of Marcus's visit, my father had called every branch of the family tree. Uncle Ray in Choppy. Aunt Patrice in Holeo. My grandmother Helen, 82 years old, in her assisted living apartment in Northampton. Cousins I hadn't spoken to since Thanksgiving 3 years ago. He called them all and told them all the same story. Sabrina abandoned her family. Sabrina is threatening to put her pregnant sister-in-law on the street. Sabrina has changed. The messages started coming in like a coordinated attack. Uncle Ray, think about what you're doing, kiddo. A cousin I barely knew. Family first, Sabrina. Always. Aunt Patrice called directly, voice cold. Your grandmother is crying. I hope you're happy. I tried explaining to Patrice about the forged mortgage, the $95,000, the bank records, the signature that wasn't mine. I don't believe that, she said. Gerald would never, that sentence, Gerald would never, was the foundation of my father's entire strategy. He had spent 58 years building a reputation as a dependable family man. The man who showed up at cookouts with a case of beer and a firm handshake. The man who called his mother every Sunday. He had spent decades building that image. And now he was cashing it in to bury me. And it was working. In the court of family opinion, I was guilty without a trial. I called Rita and told her everything. She listened, then said something that felt like an anchor dropping. Don't fight the story. Let the documents speak. And they will, at the right time. She glanced at the calendar on her desk. The outdoor party, when all of them are there, 45 people. Perfect audience. I took a breath. That's in 5 days. Then we have 5 days to get ready. On day 14, a letter arrived at Rita's office on Greenfield Credit Union paper. She called me at work. You're going to want to come in. I drove to her office during my lunch break. She had already set the letter on her desk, turned so I could read it. The key part was the 3rd paragraph, and I will remember those words for the rest of my life. Following an internal review, the signature on the loan paperwork does not match the verified signature on file for the property owner, Sabrina E. Brennan. The related loan has been suspended while further investigation takes place. Suspended, not fully resolved, not yet, but suspended. The lien would not be reported to the credit bureaus. My score of 761 was safe, for now. Rita continued. The loan officer who had processed the application, Derek Gaines, had been placed on leave effective immediately. The bank's review team had flagged several rule violations. Most critically, the fact that no one ever confirmed the identity of the signer in person. Gaines had later admitted in an internal interview that Gerald was a regular customer who had bought him beers a couple of times, and had told him the property owner was out of town but fully knew about the transaction. Beers. My father had traded beers for my financial identity. The lien will be removed from your property record within 30 days, Rita said. But more importantly, the bank now has a strong reason to work with us. They processed a fake loan because of an employee's carelessness. They don't want a lawsuit. For the first time in 2 weeks, I felt something loosen in my chest. A pressure I hadn't even noticed, because it had been there so long. But there was still the house. Still 4 people living on my property who thought they had won. The process server, I said. Day 17. We're still on? Rita nodded. We're still on. The process server's name was Carl. I never got his last name. He was in his 40s, built like someone who had played football in college and never entirely stopped, and he had the steady, calm look of a man who delivers bad news for a living. Day 15. 2 p.m. A clear Wednesday afternoon. Carl walked up the front path of 147 Maplewood Drive, stepped over Tiffany's new welcome mat, and knocked 3 times. Gerald opened the door. Carl handed him the notice to leave, a formal 30-day eviction notice issued by the property owner, me, under Massachusetts state law. The document named all 4 occupants: Gerald Brennan, Donna Brennan, Marcus Brennan, and Tiffany Brennan. It stated in plain legal English that they had 30 days to leave the property or face a formal eviction process through Springfield Housing Court. According to the process server's written report, which I received that evening, Gerald read the first page, looked up, read it again and said nothing. The note read. Recipient appeared visibly shaken. Document served successfully at 2:07 p.m. Gerald called me 11 minutes later. For the first time in my life, his voice was not strong. It was cracked. You're evicting us. Your own parents. You forged my name on a $95,000 loan, Dad. The bank confirmed it. You have 30 days. I did it for the family. You did it for Marcus's credit card debt. I have the transaction records. Every dollar. Every deposit. Every cash withdrawal Mom made. You ungrateful. He didn't finish the sentence. He hung up. Marcus called 4 minutes later, already shouting. You're crazy. Tiffany is due in 6 weeks. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my problem to solve anymore, Marcus. 2 days remained until Gerald's outdoor gathering. 45 invitations had been sent. Catering was ordered. Folding chairs were set up in the backyard. He didn't cancel. He told Donna, we'll show them we're still a family. Sabrina is the one who left. He still believed he controlled the story. Sunday, 1 p.m. The maple tree in the front yard of 147 Maplewood Drive had turned fully orange. Beneath it, Gerald Brennan had arranged folding tables, catered food from a local deli, pink and white helium balloons, and 45 chairs in neat rows like a crowd waiting for a speech. The event was called Welcome Baby Brennan, a celebration of Marcus and Tiffany's coming child, the first grandchild of the Brennan family. Gerald had sent reminder texts the day before. Donna had baked a lemon cake. Tiffany wore a new lavender maternity dress and sat in a cushioned chair at the head of the main table like the guest of honor at a banquet. The crowd filled in over the first hour. Uncle Ray in khaki shorts and a polo, standing near the grill. Aunt Patrice holding a wrapped gift, lips tight. Grandmother Helen, 82 years old, seated in a padded lawn chair someone had brought just for her. Neighbors from Maplewood Drive, including Louise Beckett, who stood at the edge of the yard with a glass of lemonade and a look that said she was there to watch, not to celebrate. Co-workers from Riverside Motors. Friends of Tiffany from the dental office. Cousins, second cousins, a few people I couldn't place. Gerald stood at the center of it all. Dress shirt tucked in, sleeves rolled once. He raised a plastic cup of lemonade and offered a toast. The Brennan family is growing. This house, this home has always been about family. 45 people clapped. Tiffany smiled. Marcus put his arm around her. Donna smiled from behind the cake table, arranging plates. Nobody mentioned me. Gerald had told anyone who asked that I couldn't make it, that I had been going through some things. Louise Beckett took a slow sip of her lemonade and said nothing. It was 1:15. I was 8 minutes away, sitting in my car with a manila folder on the passenger seat and a heartbeat I could feel in my throat. I parked on the street 2 houses down, checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. Gray blazer, black pants, white blouse. The same outfit I wore to project review meetings at work. Hair pulled back in a low bun, minimal makeup. I looked like someone who had come to deliver a report. Because that's exactly what I was doing. The manila folder sat in my lap. Inside, a certified copy of the ownership papers, the signature comparison, mine on the left, the forgery on the right, the official letter from Greenfield Credit Union confirming the loan was suspended, and copies of the transaction records showing where every dollar of that $95,000 had gone. Rita had organized the pages in order. Each one was marked with a tab. I walked up the sidewalk at 2:15. The party had been going for over an hour. People were eating, laughing, walking around the yard. A few kids chased each other near the fence. The balloons moved gently in a light breeze. Gerald saw me first. He was standing near the porch steps, in the middle of a conversation with a cousin, and his expression went through 3 stages in about 2 seconds. Surprise, irritation, and something closer to fear than I had ever seen on his face. He walked toward me fast. What are you doing here? I'm at my house, Dad. The one with my name on the ownership papers. Don't make a scene. I'm not the one who forged someone's signature on a mortgage application. His hand closed around my arm, just above the elbow. Not hard enough to hurt, but hard enough to steer. Lower your voice. A voice came from behind us, clear and steady. Gerald, take your hand off that girl. Louise Beckett, standing 6 feet away, lemonade still in hand, face as steady as poured concrete. Gerald let go. A few heads turned. Then a few more. Tiffany appeared in the doorway, a baby shower gift bag still in her hand. She saw me, and her face went pale. Why is she here? 45 people were watching now. I stood on the porch, 3 steps up from the yard, in full view of every guest, and I did not raise my voice. I didn't need to. Silence carries farther than shouting when the audience is already listening. Most of you were told I moved out because I wanted my own space. That's not what happened. I opened the manila folder. This house is in my name. Only my name. I bought it 4 years ago with a home loan. I have paid every mortgage payment. $2,340 a month, 48 months, $112,320 total. My parents contributed $0. Gerald took a step forward. Sabrina, stop this. 3 weeks ago, I found out that my father, with my mother as a witness, forged my signature on a $95,000 mortgage application at Greenfield Credit Union. I held up the signature comparison. This is my real signature. I pointed to the left column. And this is the one on the mortgage. I pointed to the right. They are not the same. The bank confirmed it in writing. I held up the letter from Greenfield. The loan has been suspended. The bank is investigating. I held up the transaction summary. $38,000 went to Marcus's credit card debt. $22,000 went to a car dealership for his down payment. $15,000 was withdrawn in cash by my mother. $20,000 is sitting in my father's savings account right now. My parents stole $95,000 from me by forging my name. The yard went silent. Not the polite silence of a pause between toasts, the breathless silence of 45 people realizing they were standing inside someone else's lie. Aunt Patrice set her cup down on the table. Uncle Ray looked at Gerald with an expression I had never seen him wear. Then Louise Beckett spoke, loud enough for every corner of that yard. I've lived next door for 11 years. I watched this girl mow that lawn, paint those walls, shovel that driveway, alone, every single time. And they had the nerve to put her in the basement. I set the folder on the porch railing. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because 45 people deserve to know the truth before they congratulate this family on growing. Tiffany rose from the cushioned chair slowly, one hand on the armrest, the other on her belly. Her face was the color of the paper plates stacked on the catering table. She looked at Marcus the way you'd look at a stranger wearing your husband's clothes. Tell me this isn't real. Marcus didn't move. His eyes were fixed on a spot on the ground somewhere between his feet and the edge of the lawn. His mouth opened, then closed. Marcus. Tiffany's voice went up. Tell me the $38,000 wasn't true. Tell me you didn't use stolen money to pay off your debt. It's complicated, Tiff. It's not true. Tell me it's not true. Her voice broke across the yard like glass on a tile floor. A child near the fence stopped running. Uncle Ray set his plate down. Grandmother Helen, seated in her padded lawn chair, gripped both armrests and stared at her son with the kind of stillness that comes before a verdict. Gerald tried. He stepped forward, arms out, the family leader trying to regain control of his stage. Everyone, this is a family matter. Uncle Ray cut him off. A family matter? You forged your daughter's name, Gerald. That's not a family matter. That's a crime. Aunt Patrice, the same woman who had told me my grandmother was crying because of me, picked up the wrapped baby gift she had brought, put it back in her bag, and stepped away from the table without a word. Then Helen spoke. Her voice was thin with age but harder than anything I had heard that afternoon. Gerald, I didn't raise you to be a thief. Mom, sit down and be quiet. Gerald sat on a folding chair in the middle of his own party, in front of 45 people. He sat down and said nothing. Tiffany walked inside. The screen door slammed behind her. One by one, guests began gathering their things. Nobody took leftover cake. Nobody said congratulations. The party was over. The house was mine. An hour later, the yard looked like the scene of something that had been called off mid-sentence. Folding tables still up. Paper plates caught in the grass. Pink and white balloons tied to the mailbox, bobbing in a wind that no longer had a party beneath it. I sat in my car at the curb, engine off, hands on my knees. I had expected to feel something sharp. Triumph, relief, the clean snap of justice delivered. Instead I felt empty. Like I had just pulled out a tooth that had been rotting for years. Necessary. Correct. And nothing about it felt good. Through the front window, I could see Gerald sitting in the living room. Just sitting. Donna was in the kitchen. I could see her shadow moving behind the curtain, wiping the counter the way she always did when she didn't know what else to do. Upstairs, behind the closed door of the nursery that used to be my bedroom, Tiffany had locked Marcus out. I could hear it even from the curb. Her voice, muffled but clear. You told me you got a bonus. A bonus? Marcus. You lied to my face for 3 months. I was going to tell you when? After the baby was born. After we moved into a house that isn't even ours. A car pulled up behind mine. Uncle Ray. He got out, walked to my window, and stood there for a moment before he spoke. I owe you an apology. I believed your father. I shouldn't have. Thank you, Uncle Ray. That means a lot. He nodded once, got back in his car, and drove away. Aunt Patrice left without stopping, but 48 hours later, she sent a text 2 paragraphs long, an apology she had clearly rewritten several times. I started my car and pulled away from Maplewood Drive. In the rearview mirror, the balloon still floated above the mailbox, pink and white against a gray sky, celebrating something that no longer existed. Tiffany called that night at 9:30. Her voice was different from what I expected. Not angry, not crying. Just flat. The voice of someone who has run out of feelings and is now running on information. I need to know everything. Every dollar. Every lie. I hesitated. This was the same woman who had told me to leave my own house, who had posted my bedroom on Instagram like a trophy, who had called me selfish for not paying the electric bill on a property she was living in for free. But she was also 7 months pregnant and had just found out that her husband had built their life on stolen money. Whatever she had been before, right now, she was someone who deserved the truth. I sent her the transaction records. All of them. 15 minutes of silence. Then her name appeared on my phone again. The $22,000 for the car. He told me that was a dealer discount. He said he earned it. I'm sorry, Tiffany. I really am. Don't be sorry. I'm the one who told you to leave your own house. A pause long enough to drive through. I didn't know it was your house. Gerald told me it was a family property passed down from your grandparents. That's what he said. It was never a family property. I bought it with my own money when I was 25. Another silence. Then quieter. I owe you an apology. A real one. Not now, I can't right now, but I owe you one. Before she hung up, she told me something I hadn't known. Marcus also owed her $7,000. Money she had lent him before the wedding. Money he had promised to pay back after the baby came. She was beginning to see the pattern I had spent 4 years learning. Her last words. I'm calling my mom tomorrow. I'm not raising this baby in a house built on lies. She kept her word. The week after the party, the Brennan family fell apart like a building with the load-bearing wall removed. And I would know. I'm an engineer. I know exactly what happens when you take away the thing that held everything up. Tiffany moved to her mother's house in Worcester, an hour and a half away. Marcus called her 14 times the first day. She answered none of them. By the third day, her Facebook status changed from married to blank. Not single, not it's complicated, just blank, which somehow felt louder than either. Marcus lost his footing without Tiffany, without the baby on the way story. He was just a 33-year-old man sleeping on the sofa in his sister's house. Except it wasn't his sister's house. It was just his sister's. Gerald, for the first time in Marcus's memory, turned on him. If you hadn't been in so much debt, none of this would have happened. Golden child. Meet the cold side of the altar. Gerald himself was falling apart in slower, quieter ways. He cancelled his weekly card game for the first time in 12 years. Told his friends. Family stuff. But 2 of the men in that group had been at the party. They already knew. The phone calls Gerald used to get from cousins checking in, from friends wanting to grab lunch, they slowed to almost nothing. Uncle Ray didn't call at all. Helen, his own mother, didn't return his calls for 3 days straight. Donna called me once a day, every day. Same words, same tone. Please come home. We can fix this. And every day, I gave the same answer. There's nothing to fix, Mom. There's only what happens next. On Friday, a letter arrived at 147 Maplewood Drive from Greenfield Credit Union. A formal request for Gerald and Donna to come in person to the branch to discuss the matter. The bank had its own problems now, and Gerald was running out of people willing to believe his side of the story. The internet is not kind to secrets. It's even less kind when the secret involves baby showers and stolen mortgages. Tiffany deleted the Instagram post. Family always makes room for the next generation, with the pink heart emoji. She deleted it, but screenshots live forever. And within a day, a friend of hers from the dental office posted a vague status on Facebook. Imagine finding out the house you thought was a gift was actually stolen property. Some families. Red flag emoji. 89 comments. 340 reactions. Tiffany wasn't named. She didn't need to be. The people who knew knew. On Maplewood Drive, the neighborhood gossip network worked at the speed of a quiet street. Louise Beckett didn't gossip. It wasn't in her nature. But when neighbors asked, she gave them one sentence. I watched that girl build this home with her own 2 hands. You should ask Gerald what he built. It was the kind of line that didn't need a follow-up. People filled in the rest themselves. At Riverside Motors, 2 of Marcus's co-workers had been at the party. They had seen the documents, heard Tiffany's cries, watched Gerald get told to sit down by his own mother. One of them asked Marcus on Monday morning, Hey, wasn't that your sister's house? Marcus didn't answer. He requested 3 days of personal leave. His manager approved it without questions. Some silences are louder than explanations. Aunt Patrice sent me a text on the second Tuesday. It was longer than I expected and more honest than I deserved from someone who had told me my grandmother was crying because of me. Sabrina, I am sorry. I should have listened to you before I judged you. I always wondered how Marcus afforded that new car. Now I know. I hope you can forgive me in time. I didn't reply right away, but I saved the message. Some apologies need to sit before you know what they're worth. Day 30. The eviction notice expired on a Tuesday morning. No extensions, no negotiations, no last-minute phone calls that changed anything. Rita sent a final formal letter to the house. If all occupants had not left by end of day, we would file for a court-ordered eviction through Springfield Housing Court. The letter was addressed to Gerald. It arrived by certified mail. He signed for it. That signature at least was his own. Gerald called me that afternoon. His voice was different. Not angry, not strong, not even the cracked version from weeks ago. It was flat. Empty. The voice of a man who has run out of people to blame and hasn't yet learned how to look in a mirror. Where are we supposed to go, Sabrina? I've already looked into this for you. There are 2 apartments available on Elm Street. $1,200 and $1,400 a month. Your disability check covers the rent. Mom can apply for part-time work. That's your starting point. Silence. I'm not throwing you out with nothing, Dad. I'm telling you that you can't live in a house you stole from me. There's a difference. I didn't steal. Yes, you did. More silence. Then. Okay. That was it. One word. The smallest, heaviest word he had ever spoken to me. Donna started packing the next morning. Gerald sat in his recliner and watched. Marcus, who had already moved in with a friend 2 weeks earlier, came by to collect the last of his things. He carried 2 boxes to his car without making eye contact with anyone. Day 33. Gerald and Donna moved into the $1,200 apartment on Elm Street. 1 bedroom, street level. A fraction of the space they had been living in for free in my house. Gerald didn't say a word as he turned the key in the lock for the last time. Donna stopped at the front door, looked back at the house, then looked at me standing by my car. She gave a small, slow nod and walked to the passenger side of Gerald's truck. I had given my father 2 apartment listings because I couldn't give him nothing. Even after everything, I couldn't be what he had been to me. The legal aftermath was quieter than the personal one, but no less final. Greenfield Credit Union completed its internal investigation 6 weeks after the party. The result? The $95,000 loan was cancelled entirely. The lien on 147 Maplewood Drive was removed from all property records. The fake entry on my credit file was erased through formal disputes with Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. My score, which had never actually dropped, thanks to Rita's quick action, climbed from 761 to 774 once the lien removal was reflected. Derek Gaines, the loan officer who had processed the application on Gerald's word and a few beers, was fired. The bank sent me a formal apology letter and offered $5,000 as a goodwill payment. I turned down the money. Instead, I asked for a written promise that Greenfield would require in-person identity verification for all future mortgage applications. They agreed. Rita had the commitment made official. The harder question came next. Criminal charges. Rita laid it out plainly. What Gerald and Donna had done, forging a signature on a financial document, was forgery under Massachusetts state law. What Marcus had done, knowingly receiving the money, was fraud. I had the right to file a criminal complaint. I chose not to, not because they didn't deserve it, but because I didn't want to spend 2 years in courtrooms reliving the worst thing my family had ever done to me. I had already won. I had my house, my credit, and my name back. I didn't need a criminal conviction to know I was right. But Rita sent Gerald one final letter. Ms. Brennan has chosen not to pursue criminal charges at this time. This decision is a courtesy, not a right. Any future unauthorized use of Ms. Brennan's identity or property will be reported directly to law enforcement. Donna told me later. Gerald read that letter twice, folded it and put it in a drawer. He never mentioned it again. Some warnings don't need to be loud. They just need to be permanent. 2 months after the party, I sat at my kitchen table in the studio apartment, the one I had rented as a temporary escape, and wrote an email. Not to Rita, not to the bank. To my family. All 3 of them. Gerald, Donna, Marcus. It took me 4 hours to get it right. Not because the words were complicated, but because I wanted every word to be a wall with a door in it. Firm enough to protect me. Open enough to prove I wasn't like them. The email had 3 sections. The first was about money. I will not provide financial support for rent, utilities, or personal expenses. If you need help, I can refer you to community resources in Springfield. The second was about contact. I am open to communication, but only under certain conditions. No guilt language, no demands, and no discussion of the house or the mortgage. If these rules are broken, I will pause contact for 90 days. The third was about the future. If and when trust is rebuilt through steady, demonstrated change over time, not through words, I am open to having a relationship. But it will be on different terms than before. I read it 6 times. Then I pressed send. Gerald never responded. Not a word. Not then. Not since. Donna replied 2 days later, I understand. I'm sorry. Sabrina. I truly am. Marcus responded 2 weeks after that. 4 words. I get it. Which was either growth or exhaustion. I couldn't tell, and I decided it didn't matter. I had spent 4 years asking myself if I was being too hard, too cold, too much. But writing that email, laying it out in plain language, setting terms I could point to, was the first time I felt like I was being exactly enough. Have you ever had to draw a line with someone you love? Not with anger, but with a document. How did it feel? Tell me in the comments. You might find you're not the only one holding that pen. 3 months after the party, Tiffany gave birth to a girl. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Lily Mae Brennan, born at a hospital in Worcester near Tiffany's mother's house, in a delivery room that Marcus was not invited into. Tiffany sent me a photo the next morning. A tiny face wrapped in a white blanket, eyes closed, one small fist curled against her cheek. Beneath the photo, a message longer than anything Tiffany had ever sent me. Sabrina, I said terrible things to you in a house that was never mine to claim. I was wrong. I was told things that weren't true, and I chose to believe them because it was easier. That's on me. You don't owe me anything. But if you ever want to meet Lily, she has your eyes. Actually, the door is open. No pressure. No timeline. I looked at that photo for a long time. Then I cried. For the first time since I had left Maplewood Drive, I cried. Not from sadness, not from anger, but from the particular relief of something unclenching inside your chest that you forgot was clenched. I replied, "Thank you, Tiffany. That means more than you know. I'd like to meet Lily when the time is right." Tiffany had filed for separation at Worcester County Probate Court. She wasn't going back to Marcus. She told me later, in a conversation I didn't expect to have, that the $7,000 he still owed her was the smallest of his debts. Marcus called me once after Lily was born. He asked if he could bring the baby to see me sometime. I said yes, but at a coffee shop in town, not at my house. Public space. Neutral ground. A boundary I didn't need to explain. And he didn't try to push. Forgiveness isn't a switch. It's a faucet. And I get to control the flow. 6 months after the party, I moved back into 147 Maplewood Drive. My house. My name on the ownership papers. My hand on the doorknob. My key in the lock. I repainted every room. New colors. Not to erase anything, but because I had earned the right to choose. Soft gray in the bedroom. Warm white in the kitchen. The basement got a proper floor, a moisture barrier, and recessed lighting. I never wanted to look at bare concrete again. Louise Vacate came over that first afternoon with a potted lavender plant, set it on the porch railing, squeezed my hand, and said, "Welcome home, honey. For real this time." At work, the promotion I had been working toward came through. Senior Project Engineer. Salary. $104,000 a year. I signed the offer letter at the same desk where I had first seen the credit monitoring alert that started all of this. I began writing. Not reports, but real words. A blog first. Personal essays about family patterns, about the price of being the reliable one, about what happens when you stop supporting people who have confused your hard work for your love. The first post, the basement test, how I knew it was time to leave, was shared 4,200 times in its first month. A small publisher in Boston, Harbor Line Press, reached out. They wanted a book. I signed the contract for the deed as my name, Reclaiming your life from family that takes too much. Publication timeline. 8 months. Gerald and Donna live on Elm Street. He calls once a month. The calls are short, awkward, and free of demands. That in itself is progress. Marcus works at a dealership in Choppy and sees Lily every 2 weeks. He's quieter now. Whether that's growth or exhaustion, I'm not sure. I've stopped needing to know. I met Lily at a coffee shop on a Tuesday afternoon. She was 3 months old, asleep in her carrier. Marcus handed her to me, and I held her, warm, impossibly small, and thought, I didn't lose a family. I lost a version of family that was never real. And I built something better in its place. The house is quiet now. But it's a different kind of quiet. Not the silence of being ignored. The peace of being in control. That's my story. I shared it not because I'm angry. I'm not anymore. But because I know someone out there is lying in their own basement right now, paying for a house they're not allowed to live in, wondering if they're the problem. You're not the problem. You were never the problem. And the moment you decide to stop paying for the lie, that's the moment your life actually starts. If this story reached you, hit like, subscribe if you want to hear more, and if you know someone who needs to hear this tonight, share it. Sometimes the thing that saves us is knowing someone else walked out first. There's another part of this story I haven't told yet, about the conversation between Gerald and his mother Helen, the one that happened a week after the party, the one Donna said changed something in him permanently. That story is in the video linked in the description. I'll see you there.